Hi there everybody, welcome to Friday's edition of Indycar, tail end of the week and the fag end of a long story of poisoned Russian spies. This week the news has been dominated by the entire subject and conspiracy theories surrounding the poisoning of a former Russian spy, a man who was spying for both the Russians and the British at one stage, was imprisoned in Russia for treason, for spying for Britain, then released in a prisoner swap and largely left alone for about 8 years, and then suddenly Russia decides apparently to try and assassinate this man using a substance which doesn't seem to really work very well, other than the fact that it seems to incapacitate people. It's not particularly lethal. Okay, so everybody has been talking about that, and while they've been talking about all of that in the press this week, lots of other things have been happening which you don't know about. Now, some of them are to do with Britain, some of them are not, and some of these subjects, some of these pieces of news that I'm going to give you today are actually things that we really need to know about because they're happening behind our backs at the moment. The first thing is a piece of good news. For a change, some good news about a blockchain voting system. For the first time in history, a blockchain electronic unhackable voting system has been trialled and used successfully in the African nation of Sierra Leone. Now, for those of you who don't really know much about Sierra Leone, it's a country on the coast of Africa, if I remember correctly. My geography is not that great, but Sierra Leone has a very troubled past. There has been a very long, bitter civil war in Sierra Leone, and only recently have Sierra Leoneans found themselves back in democracy and being able to vote. But the problem with Sierra Leone was that the corruption, bribery and so forth that was rife in the country at the time when they were planning their new voting system and their elections meant that they had to find some way which all of the voters in Sierra Leone could agree to, which would be fair and which everybody would be able to see, which was fully transparent, and where people could not stuff votes or remove votes from ballot boxes. And so the 7.2 million people of Sierra Leone were given the chance to use the very first specially constructed blockchain ledger voting system. So this is a system where you are registered onto this main system by using specific identifiers, things like your name, your address, your age, your date of birth, your social security number, your driver's license number, passport number, whatever it is, but a whole series of identifiers which you have to prove you have in your possession to make sure you're registered. Now, as soon as you're registered onto the blockchain, you can then make your vote, make your choice, and as soon as you register your vote, either by a mobile phone or by tablet or by a PC, the blockchain system immediately downloads itself into your device. So in other words, a copy of the ledger that you're about to put your name and your vote into is displayed on your screen and held in your computer or your laptop or whatever it is, or tablet or phone. So everybody on the blockchain has a copy of the ledger which is live and is constantly updated as people vote. So they put their vote in, it's anonymised so nobody knows who it is, it's given an individual number so they know where it is, and they can watch that ledger as the columns build up different votes for the different candidates. And as they go along, they can see that their own vote is still there, but they can also see other votes being added for the people they're voting for or others in the race. Even all the way up to the point where the polls close, people will already know the result because it will be displayed on the ledger as the tallies are added up. So you won't need to have exit polls, you won't need to guess anything, there won't be any bets placed on who's going to win because it will be obvious who's winning because everybody will be able to see exactly how the voting is going in real time. So it's a very clever system, very innovative and secure system. Anybody who tried to hack in and remove your vote or change it from what it was would instantly be recognised by the millions of blockchain systems which are downloaded on millions of other computers, PCs and tablets, and they would reject that vote outright. If somebody changed your vote from, say, yes to a no or something like that, it would be obvious to the system, and the other millions of blockchain users who registered on this system and who have copies of the ledger on their devices, all of those millions of devices would reject that change. Blockchain is a one-shot deal. Once you vote, your vote is there, it stays in the ledger forever until the end of the vote. Nobody can take it out, nobody can change it. It's a clever system. Why am I telling you this? Well, because I've been proposing for a long time that this is exactly the kind of voting system that Scotland should use in its next independence referendum. So there is no question in anybody's mind about A, who is winning, how the programme is going, whether we're converting enough people or not. We'll know, we'll be able to see the effect of our campaign on people's votes as they are cast. And because of that, we will know much better those who make their votes early on are the stick in the muds who are not going to change their minds, because people who are not going to change their minds no matter what you say to them will always vote early in a system like that. They'll put their vote in early. Those are the ones who normally do postal votes. They put their vote in early because they're not going to change their minds. So you can write them off straight away if they're no voters and concentrate on everybody else. But blockchain would be a great system for us, but it's never been tested until now. Now that it's been successfully trialled, it's proved successful, everybody seemed to like it in Sierra Leone. The last time I looked at it, it wasn't obvious who was winning because they're using a proportional representation voting system, so they would end up with a composite government with a coalition anyway. But the point was that everybody in Sierra Leone was happy with the way the voting was carried out, and this is something which is missing in Scotland at the moment. The trust in the electoral system is zero amongst most of us. Okay, on to the second thing I wanted to talk to you about today, which is Mike Fenwick, who is known to many of you as the man behind the Scottish currency, the Scottish Hand, and who is also a proponent of blockchain, incidentally. Mike contacted me the other day privately to let me know that there is an event planned in Edinburgh called the Independent Commission on Referendums. Now, I don't know about you, but I had never heard of this, and I don't think we were supposed to hear about it, to be honest with you. It's happening in Edinburgh on the 26th of March, at 1 PM till 2:30 at the Wolfson Lecture Theatre in the Royal Society of Edinburgh in George Street. It is being organised by the Independent Commission on Referendums, which is based in London, strangely enough, and they are looking at how referendums are conducted around the world. They're looking at best practice, and they're looking at what the level of voting must be in order to secure a successful outcome. Should it be 50%? Should it be 60%? Maybe it should be 75%. But the point is, unless people from our side of the campaign argument on independence attend this meeting and take notes, make suggestions, make their voices heard, then this little secretive conference is going to happen in Edinburgh, and we're not particularly being invited to it. It's not been advertised to us, but I'm advertising it to you now, letting you know that we must not let this meeting go by without us being in attendance to see what they are talking about. Years from now, if we haven't attended this meeting, this Independent Commission on Referendums, which is a part of the Electoral Commission apparently, it's a splinter group of that. It says it's an independent body, but we know how much we trust this from past independent bodies in Britain. But the point of it is that they're looking at changing the rules of referendums. And if they change the rules of referendums before our referendum and we don't know about it, we could have a hard struggle trying to produce a majority. If they decided the majority should be 75% before it was a conclusion, then we would not be able to do anything about that. The Electoral Commission would have decided it all for us down in London, and we would be forced to accept that. I don't think any of us wants that. So, two things to do with our referendum are happening, the good and the bad. The blockchain voting system has been proved for the first time, but the British Electoral Commission is having this quiet little meeting in Edinburgh for an hour and a half at the Wilson Lecture Theatre at the Royal Society of Edinburgh in George Street on the 26th of this month. We all need to get along there. I think you can get in for free, you just need to register. I will check with Mike Fenwick about whether it costs to get in or not. But the point is, we need to go and make our feelings known that there is no way we're going to let them move the goalpost yet again and decide that we have to have 75% as a majority. A 51% majority is all we need. That's what happened with Brexit. Brexit, they got 52% to 48%, and they won. Now they want to move the goalposts so that Scotland cannot get the same kind of result for its independence. So it's very important that we go to this, as many of us as possible. Go there, take notes, see who's there, make a note of all the people that are there speaking on the panel, find out who they are, what parties they're from, whatever we can, and make sure that we are present so that they cannot pull a fast one on us with our referendum. And finally, the Irish border. Now, as you may know, the European Union has made the solution to this frictionless Irish border a precondition of the Brexit deal that the UK is being offered. And they've said to the British government that any deal between the Republic of Ireland, which is in the EU anyway, and Northern Ireland, which is going to be outside of the EU, means that in Northern Ireland there must be full regulatory alignment, which means that the rules in Northern Ireland governing imports and exports across the border have to be precisely the same as the rules in the south, in the Republic, where the European Union is operating. Otherwise there can be no frictionless border. Now that's great and it sounds wonderful, but the thing is that if full regulatory alignment is the only thing that's needed to create a frictionless non-border post border, then that should apply also to Scotland. So that when Scotland is independent, a frictionless border of the same type should exist between Scotland and England. Remember that one of the arguments against independence in 2014 was the fact that the Better Together campaign claimed that Scottish independence would mean Scotland would have to put up barriers and fences and walls and border posts all the way across the southern border of Scotland in order for trade to take place. If Ireland, with its currently non-partition status, can keep its border open by simply having regulatory alignment, then that would force the United Kingdom to do the same thing. If Scotland leaves the United Kingdom next year, as I anticipate it will vote to do, Scotland could remain in the EU in the interim while it decides what to do, in which case England would need to have full regulatory alignment in order to maintain a frictionless border with Scotland. Now, Mike has just sent me a little message. I'm reading it on my screen. Mike Fennick has just said to me that this event in Edinburgh, the Independent Commission on Referendums, is a free event. You don't need to pay for it, and there is a ticket link which I will post up on my my webpage later on after the broadcast. So those of you who want to go along, make your feelings known to the Commission about exactly what you think should be a majority vote. 50% is what I would say. Anything above 50% should be a yes win. Anything above that, they're moving the goalposts. So thanks, Mike, for sending that little message. Remember, it's free. Go along to the Independent Commission on Referendums, Edinburgh, the 26th of March this year at 1 o'clock until 2:30 p.m. at the Wolfson Lecture Theatre, the Royal Society of Edinburgh. And if we do that, we can keep an eye on what the British Electoral Commission is doing behind our backs at the moment. Okay, well that's about it for today. I hope the news we've given you today has cheered you up a little bit. Blockchain, we know now, works as a voting system in Sierra Leone, and that creates a precedent for the Scottish Government to make sure that it's put in place for our referendum, so that we can be safe in the knowledge that our votes will not be tampered with, nobody will stuff votes, no dead people will vote, and the postal voting system can be scrapped completely. There's no reason for it. Anybody can get access to a mobile phone and register to vote. Doesn't matter how old they are, how infirm they are, there'll be somebody on hand who can help them to register and register their vote in the normal way and privately. It's a wonderful system. It means polling stations can be demolished. Do away with the stupid pencil and bit of paper and the wooden box that you've got to put them in. Get rid of that 18th century voting system once and for all. Bring Scotland into the 21st century. Anyway, I'm off now. I've just done 2 driving tests this morning. I've got some more work to do this afternoon. Hopefully you guys will all have a nice weekend. Don't get too bogged down in the whole nerve toxin incident. It sounds to me like this thing is just going to turn into another Princess Diana death, where everybody's got a pet theory. But anyway, I'm off. I'll see you later. Have a good weekend, everyone. Stay in touch with me. You know where I am if you need to ask me any more questions or suggest anything for the show. Bye for now.